Bottom line, the patriots are getting organized. The system is scared because they know that we found one of their major weak spots.
And they're jumping the shark in reaction. Whenever they start labeling someone who is simply growing a pot plant in their backyard as an enemy, or labeling von Nothaus, who simply had sound money in his pocket, as a terrorist. Things like this, labeling veterans, returning veterans as suspected terrorists.
It lets everybody know we were right. This whole Patriot Act's for us. This is a tyranny.
And they wake other people up. And it becomes so absurd and so ridiculous. Like I said, they're jumping the shark. They're going such an absurd length. They have to, because all we're doing is defending what's really constitutional.
They're absurd tyrants, and so now the absurdity of them defending what they're doing is becoming Kafkaesque. I mean, it's beyond 1984 in so many respects. I mean, the White House comes out this week and says, yeah, we're going to hold your passcodes for your computer and your bank account. We're going to watch everything you do. And even mainstream media universally said this is absolute police state.
And they think they're going to be able to chill our speech. They think Americans will cower in fear, but the exact opposite has happened.
Truth is, Americans have just been decadent and lazy. Once Americans get roused, they're ready for a fight.
Right, and the more
all they're doing is waking up the sleeping giant.
That's exactly right. They're swelling our ranks. They're showing the truth, what we've been saying for years, what you've been saying for a long time, and they're demonstrating it. They're saying, like you said earlier, they're showing that it's all actually true. And they think they can say, well, yes, and we're going to do this, this, and this to you if you do.
And this guy put out silver coins. He's arrested. He's a terrorist. And marijuana's terrorism. And yeah, we got blimps watching. And yeah, we're listening to you. But it's not a police state. But you said 5 years ago you weren't spying without warrants. Shut up, conspiracy theorist.
But it's not going to work. It's not going to suppress us.
By the way, in that article I had earlier when you were on the radio with me, in that story where they have the Commerce Secretary, and they've got the Cato Institute and all these big groups saying this is a total power grab, takeover, internet ID, internet kill switch. It's all in the White House announcement. The Commerce Secretary came out and said, you're a conspiracy theorist. They never intellectually debate us. They just have a throwaway line of, well, yes, you'll have a government-issued ID to do anything on the internet, but you're a conspiracy theorist. It doesn't work anymore.
No, it doesn't.
The website for the 10th Amendment Center is 10thamendmentcenter.com, obviously. Oathkeepers, oathkeepers.org. And I want to thank you, Michael Boldin, for joining us. Now we're going to bring in Brandon Smith.
Thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you so much. We'll be right back. Well, Stuart, why don't you introduce our next guest?
Well, this is Brandon Smith, and he did write under the pen name Giordano Bruno. On economics, and
we posted some of your stuff at InfoWars.
You have for a couple of years now.
Yeah, very good stuff. And so when I saw him, I could tell he was a person of sincere belief in freedom and consistent. And I approached him with the idea of starting a movement, a grassroots movement, to get people to decouple from the fiat system, to unplug from the matrix. So I kind of lit a fire into him to start the Alternate Market Project, and now we're doing it.
Now this is what Gandhi did. For those that don't know, Gandhi peacefully, it took him over a decade, said stop buying from the British. Stop supporting them. Just turn your backs. Basically, don't serve them when they come into your business. They're here occupying us. This isn't going to work anymore. Support your own local community. And this idea is really scaring the system. So before we get into his decentralized model, let's talk about what happened to Bernard von Nothaus, because they're now calling this guy who for 13 years put out a competing currency, was not counterfeit, and they're saying that it was counterfeit, and they found a moronic federal handpicked jury to convict him. So both of you break that down, and then let's go through your alternative model that you cover at alt-market.com.
Well, what the U.S. Attorney Ann Tompkins did essentially was take a very broad statute dealing with the making of gold and silver currency, and interpreted it to mean almost any flat metal token or coin to be counterfeit. Nothaus made a few mistakes. I think he used certain language that insinuated, or that it could allow people to insinuate that he was counterfeiting. But if you look at his coins, none of them look like legal U.S. tender.
Well, he was also attacking the Federal Reserve and openly saying we need to have alternative currencies. And he was going further.
He initiated a lawsuit against the federal government right before, ironically, that they raided raided Liberty Dollar and took all his.
But the only thing he did on his coins is he used the term dollar, and he used the dollar sign. And I've seen that on casino chips for decades in Las Vegas. And so really what they did is they took a vague federal statute that used to be used to go after real counterfeiters, and now they're going after him for what you just said, because they don't like what he's doing, because he's giving people an alternative of using real money. That's the real threat.
Well, plus people are counterfeiting the counterfeit Federal Reserve notes. Itself a counterfeit item. That's the big joke here. And so it's not like people are out there counterfeiting silver and gold coins.
Right.
I mean, this is insane. But let's continue with them saying he's a special type of terrorist. This sets an amazing precedent.
Right, right. They actually, in the post-trial statement from Ann Tompkins, she says, attempts to undermine the legitimate currency of this country are simply a unique form of domestic terrorism. While these forms of anti-government activities do not involve violence, they are every bit as insidious and represent a clear and present danger to the economic stability of this country. We are determined to meet these threats through infiltration, disruption, and dismantling of organizations which seek to challenge the legitimacy, which is very funny, of our democratic form of government.
Wow. So by challenging the Federal Reserve that hijacked us 100 years ago, 98 years ago, if you even criticize them, they're saying that you're an enemy they'll infiltrate. That sounds like Cass Sunstein.
Or China. China just said they're going to arrest people who reveal accurate economic information that might hurt the Chinese economy. Our government's saying the same thing. If you even just use legitimate currency, that's undermining it.
Right, and the Nonhas case was, not about counterfeiting at all. It's really about people using sound money in their communities and in their states.
That competes with the fraudulent Federal Reserve system that's going the way of the Weimar Republic. I want to give you both the floor now to break this down, and we only got about 8 minutes left, and to go over your alternative that's completely decentralized and that this Death Star system can't stop.
Well, Alex, what we're doing with Operation Sleeping Giant is telling veterans they have to focus on 4 key areas. And with Brandon and I, with Alternate Market also, which is his effort, is take the same thing, the same message. There are 4 critical things that must be in place for us to survive an economic collapse and be free. And the first one is you've got to have food security, you've got to have emergency communications, and also emergency medical and other preparedness. Because food's the hardest thing to improvise. But the second thing you got to have in a hierarchy of needs is physical security. We're talking neighborhood watches and sheriff's posses and a revitalization of a real county militia. You've got to have your own state security, so you don't need outside intervention from the feds. And the third one is economic security, which is Brandon's going to cover here next. You've got to have the ability to barter and trade with each other. And the fourth one is state sovereignty. That's why I'm part of the Nullify Now tour, and we just spoke together here in Austin at the Nullify Now event here. And so those are all critical things, but I'll let Brandon talk about the Alternate Market Project and that one particular prong.
Well, the bottom line is if communities don't take back their commerce, they're going to be completely dependent on the Federal Reserve and the dollar. Right now we're seeing an extreme devaluation of the dollar. We're seeing inflation. Most commodities have doubled in the past 2 years. If communities remain hooked to the dollar, they're going to be desperate, and they're going to go along with anything that the federal government says when the final collapse occurs. So what we are proposing is that communities take back their commerce, they institute local barter networks and trade. Along with that would come sound money, and at the state level, sound money legislation.
Well, I mean, the main thing is that as individuals and as neighborhoods and on up, one pillar would be public action, going to your town council and your county government and saying, please use gold and silver, for example, go in your state legislature as Utah just did. So that's public. But the other side of it is don't rely only on that. Also work in the private sphere. As individuals, as families, as neighborhoods, co-ops, farmers markets, support your local economies, all the things you can do even outside of government to make sure that you're strong. Stop shopping at Walmart. Shop at the local grocer instead. And if you can get a list of folks' names, say, hey, go to your local grocer and say, hey, all of us in this community will patronize your store. We will not shop at Walmart if you'll start taking silver currency, for example, and you entice them to help you deplug. Help us shop at your store instead of Walmart.
And a lot of people have taken the first steps towards this, and that includes prepping, storing foods and goods, storing materials for self-defense. The problem is that this isn't going to be enough. People need to start building community and looking out for each other. And the idea of the lone wolf survivor out in the hills is just not going to cut it anymore. So what we're proposing is people really get out of their houses, start thinking about working together within their communities. And it only takes 2 people to start a barter network. And then hopefully, you know, that the person you're working with brings in his friends. And maybe they bring in their families, and you grow and you grow and you grow. That's really the goal here. We need to attack the problem on multiple levels. We need to go after the Federal Reserve at the federal level. We also need to institute 10th Amendment legislation at the state level. And we also need to pursue private barter, private commerce to protect ourselves at the local level. So what we want people to do is go to alt-market.com. We've launched a website. It's a networking website. You can go on, you can meet people in your local area who are also interested in bartering, who are also of like mind, interested in sound money. You meet with them. You start working with them. If you like who you're working with, maybe you can grow your network more. It doesn't have to be huge. It could be small, or you can take it to the state level. What we really want people to do is start pursuing a state-level barter system. For instance, during the Great Depression, California, the state of California alone, had a 300,000 member barter network. So these kinds of things pop up, barter networks pop up after every economic collapse. The problem is they always institute them after the fact. What we want people to do now is preempt the collapse that we know is coming and insulate themselves.
Well, Brandon Smith, I really appreciate you coming into studio.
Thanks for having me, Alex.
You bet. It's very exciting material you guys have got going, and I know they say imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. I hope other folks pick up, you know, the historical information you're putting out and spread it to everybody else, because nobody can stop an idea whose time has come. It was Victor Hugo who said, "No army can stop an idea whose time has come." Folks, again, thank you for watching. I hope you get this information out to everybody. This information can save America, save the Republic, and defeat these globalists. It's time to defeat them. Ideas are bulletproof. Ask yourselves, what are you doing in this time of great challenge? What are you doing to unlock minds? Go to Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.tv for the latest headlines and cutting-edge information.